Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're putting on our detective hats and going deep into one of the most fascinating questions in the art world. Are the world's most famous paintings hiding secret messages right in plain sight? All right, here's how we're going to crack this case. First, we'll set the stage for our whole investigation. Then, we'll look at some codes that are, well, undeniably real. From there, we'll dive into the dangerous world of hidden descent, tackle those legendary and pretty controversial theories about Da Vinci, and finally, we'll talk about how you can become a better art detective yourself. So, let's start with the one big question that has fueled countless books, documentaries, and late-night debates. I mean, that's really what it all boils down to, right? Are we uncovering genuine messages left by artistic geniuses, little breadcrumbs that have been waiting centuries for us to find? Or are we just projecting our own desire for mystery onto a silent canvas, seeing patterns where there are none? You know, what's really interesting is that these so-called hidden messages aren't all the same. They really exist on a spectrum of certainty. For example, the idea that Van Eyck's Arnolfini portrait is basically a legal document, that's pretty much a confirmed fact among art historians. Then you have the claim that Michelangelo hid detailed anatomical drawings in the Sistine Chapel. Okay, that's still hotly debated, even if the evidence is pretty compelling. But a secret musical score in The Last Supper? Well, now we're deep in speculative territory. So that's the path we're going to follow, from the certain to the seriously controversial. Okay, so let's jump into our first category and see how this all works, starting with artists who weren't just painters, they were witnesses. Let's travel back in time, all the way to the 15th century. A painter named Jan van Eyck was doing something completely revolutionary. His realism was so intense, so detailed, that one historian said it was like a corner of the real world had been fixed onto a panel as if by magic. He wasn't just painting a scene, he was documenting reality with a precision that nobody had ever seen before. And here's the perfect example. He signed his masterpiece, the Arnolfini portrait, not on the frame, but right on the back wall of the room inside the painting. It's almost like elegant graffiti. It reads, Jan van Eyck was here 1434. But why would he do that? Why put his signature in the middle of the artwork itself? Well, the most compelling theory is that this painting is so much more than just a portrait. It's actually a legal document. Check out that round convex mirror on the back wall. It's an incredible piece of painting, but look closer. I mean, really look. It reflects two other figures standing in the doorway. They're witnesses to the event. So when you combine those hidden witnesses with that bold signature, the painting transforms into a kind of visual marriage contract. Van Eyck isn't just the artist. He's signing on as the official legal witness. How cool is that? Now, for a completely different kind of hidden message, we're going to jump forward about a century to Hans Holbein the Younger. He also embedded a secret image in his painting, The Ambassadors, but not for legal reasons. He was doing it as a pure, mind-blowing display of technical skill. Okay, look at the floor between the two men. See that bizarre smeared object? At first glance, it just looks like a mistake, right? A strange smudge on the canvas. But Holbein was a master of secrets. This is an optical illusion called anamorphosis. It's designed to be unreadable until you move. If you were standing in the gallery and walked to the far right of the painting, looking back at it from a sharp angle, that smudge would suddenly snap into focus, and you'd see a perfectly rendered floating human skull. It's a memento mori, a chilling reminder that no matter how wealthy or powerful you are, death comes for us all. So we've seen artists act as witnesses and show off their incredible skills, but sometimes hiding things was a much, much riskier game. It meant being subversive, and it could mean risking the wrath of the most powerful institution on earth at the time, the church. See, back in the High Renaissance, the church had some pretty strict views on science. Anatomical dissections were really controversial. But for artists like Michelangelo, they were absolutely essential if they wanted to truly understand the human form. And that forced him to disguise his advanced and potentially heretical knowledge. So let's head to the Sistine Chapel. In the panel located right above the main altar, we see God separating light from darkness. But I want you to focus on the anatomy of God's neck. It looks a little strange, right? It's kind of bulky and has weird lines. Well, researchers have overlaid it with medical diagrams, and the resemblance to the human brainstem and spinal cord, as viewed from below, is absolutely uncanny. Coincidence? I mean, maybe, but this is Michelangelo we're talking about, a master of anatomy. The theory here is that this was a profoundly coded message, a way of fusing divine creation with scientific understanding. Now, this wasn't for the average churchgoer. It was a secret signal to what scholars call people of perception, basically the intellectual elite of the day, who would get the deeper Neoplatonic idea that Michelangelo was embedding the source of human intellect right into the very image of God himself. All right, for a completely different kind of secret message, let's jump into the absolutely wild and chaotic world of Hieronymus Bosch's masterpiece, The Garden of Earthly Delights. This is less about hidden science and more about a full-on fire and brimstone warning against sin. His version of hell is just this symphony of suffering, a twisted cautionary tale where every punishment perfectly fits the crime. Gluttons are endlessly devoured and excreted. The vain are tormented by demons. But Bosch seems to save his most creative punishments for anyone who indulged in worldly, secular music. They are graphically tortured by giant, demonic versions of their own instruments. And this is where it gets truly unbelievable. One of the damned souls in the painting has a musical score tattooed, or maybe just written, across his backside. For 500 years, it was just another one of Bosch's weird details. Then, in 2015, a university student decided to actually transcribe the notes. The result is a real piece of music you can listen to today, and it has the best name ever, the 500-year-old butt song from hell. Okay, now we enter the most famous, but also, let's be honest, the most speculative territory of all. No artist in history has attracted more code hunters and conspiracy theorists than Leonardo da Vinci. Let's just tackle the big one right away, The Last Supper. Thanks largely to the Da Vinci Code, millions of people are convinced that the figure to Jesus' right isn't the Apostle John, but is actually Mary Magdalene. And the evidence they point to is the figure's soft, seemingly feminine features. But art historians pretty much offer a collective eye roll here, because this is exactly how Renaissance artists typically portrayed John. As the youngest apostle, he was almost always shown as beardless, youthful, and in a way that our modern eyes might see as androgynous. And the theories do not stop there. In 2007, an Italian musician proposed something truly wild, that there's a hidden musical score in the painting. The idea is that if you use the table as a musical staff, the loaves of bread and the apostles' hands become notes. When you play them, backwards, of course, just like Leonardo used to write, they supposedly form a somber 40-second requiem. It's a beautiful concept, but it's one that ultimately requires a pretty creative leap of faith, since there's no historical proof it was ever intended. And this really gets to the heart of the problem for a lot of critics. There's a powerful warning here about confirmation bias. The intense desire to find a secret, especially in the work of a genius like Leonardo, can make us see patterns and codes everywhere, whether the artist actually intended them or not. So after all of this, what's the big takeaway? How should we approach these kinds of claims when we come across them? I think the key is to realize that not all hidden codes are created equal. We have to think like investigators and actually weigh the evidence. On one end of the spectrum, you have the verifiable, documentary-style codes, like Van Eyck's signature acting as a witness statement. In the middle, you have these complex, subversive ideas that are grounded in historical context, like Michelangelo's hidden anatomy. And then, way over on the other end, you have modern speculation. These theories about the Last Supper that are absolutely incredible to think about, but remain firmly in the realm of mystery. Ultimately, this whole journey shows us that great art is rarely just what you see on the surface. It's a vessel for complex, layered ideas, a conversation that spans centuries. And that leaves us with one last tantalizing question. What secrets are today's artists hiding in their work, just waiting for the people of perception centuries from now to finally discover them?